Welcome to my story, a tale of love, longing, and the rediscovery of self. Our lives together were woven from years of raising our children and navigating life's highs and lows. Yet, over time, the flame that once fueled our connection had softened into a quiet, unspoken distance. I convinced myself this was simply the natural course of growing older together, a chapter in our shared journey. But beneath that acceptance, a question lingered. Was this all there was? Our son Liam had just turned 22, a milestone that marked the beginning of a new phase in his life. With his independence came a flurry of friends and gatherings. Most weekends, our home buzzed with the sound of lively chatter and the clatter of glasses as Liam's friends brought a youthful energy into every corner. Amid that vibrant chaos, I found comfort in knowing my son was thriving, surrounded by those who valued him. Among Liam's friends was a young man named Caleb, who seemed to carry a presence distinct from the others. There was something indefinable about him, a subtle allure I couldn't quite place. Caleb was tall, with dark brown hair and a warm, approachable demeanor that brightened any space he entered. Kind and considerate, he moved with a quiet assurance that was both calming and captivating. At 25, he was just a few years older than Liam, yet his presence awakened feelings in me I'd thought were long buried. It all started on a warm Saturday afternoon. Liam and his friends were lounging in the backyard, their laughter and playful banter blending with the summer breeze. I was in the kitchen, arranging a tray of snacks, fruit and small sandwiches, when Caleb stepped inside. He approached, still damp from a game in the sprinkler, his casual sincerity catching me off guard. "Mrs. Harper," he said, his tone gentle and warm. "Can I help with anything?" I kept my focus on the tray, replying with a quick, "No, thank you, Caleb. You should go enjoy the day." But he didn't leave. Instead, he stayed near the counter, his gaze steady in a way that made my pulse quicken. "You're always looking out for everyone," he said softly. "Don't you ever take a moment for yourself?" His words struck me unexpectedly, halting my breath for a moment. It wasn't just the sentiment. It was the way he seemed to see through the layers I'd built over the years. I managed a nervous laugh, deflecting with, "That's just what comes with being a parent." But as the afternoon wore on, I found myself noticing him more. The way his voice carried over the others, the effortless way he lingered near the kitchen. Over the next few weeks, a quiet undercurrent grew between us. Each brief glance and small smile deepened a connection I hadn't anticipated. I tried to dismiss it as a fleeting fancy, something that would fade with time. But beneath that denial, I felt a stirring, a longing for a vitality I hadn't known in years. Then, one evening, the dynamic shifted. Liam had gone out with his friends, leaving the house in an unusual stillness. The silence that once felt familiar now seemed to beckon something new. In the dim light of the kitchen, Caleb and I found ourselves alone, the absence of noise amplifying the weight of the moment. "Mrs. Harper," Caleb began, his voice tentative, "I hope this doesn't sound out of place, but I see something in you. Something bright and alive that's been tucked away under all the responsibilities you carry. You give so much to everyone. Don't you ever think about what you want, even just for a moment?" His words hung in the air, stirring echoes of dreams I'd let slip away. I remembered the person I used to be, someone who embraced life's possibilities with open arms. Over the years, I'd poured myself into being a wife and mother, setting aside parts of my own identity to nurture our family. As Caleb spoke, emotions surged within me, guilt, yearning, and a sense of release. The steady rhythm of my life had become both a comfort and a cage. In his earnest eyes, I glimpsed the woman I'd been, and the woman I could still be. Someone worthy of joy, connection, and the unexpected thrill of renewal. That night, in the quiet of the kitchen, we talked. We shared our hopes and uncertainties, two people finding common ground where routine had once reigned. In that exchange, I realized that life, with all its flaws, still offered glimpses of wonder. I began to see that it's never too late to reclaim a spark that once burned brightly. In the days that followed, I navigated a fragile balance between obligation and awakening. I treasured the life I'd built with my family, Yet I also acknowledged a truth I'd long ignored. I deserved to be seen and valued for myself. Caleb's presence reminded me that even amid life's demands, there was space for tenderness and the promise of something new. This path wasn't without its struggles. Each day brought moments of introspection, challenging the choices I'd made and the life I'd shaped. There were tears shed in the stillness of night and cautious hope in the morning light, proof of the intricate dance between love and longing. Through it all, I came to understand that every stage of life holds the potential for change, if we're willing to embrace it. One night, after Liam and his friends had left for an outing, the house fell into a rare, almost unsettling quiet, a stark contrast to the usual lively hum. Caleb stayed behind, mentioning he wasn't feeling up to joining them. Concerned, and drawn by an unexplainable pull, I offered to make him some tea and suggested we sit in the living room. As the faint sounds of the kettle and the hum of the evening filled the space, we began to talk. In that soft, unguarded moment, I found it easy to share with him. Caleb listened with a focus I hadn't felt in years, his gaze steady and compassionate. I spoke of my frustrations, the doubts that lingered in my mind, and a loneliness I'd never fully voiced. With each word, a dormant part of me awakened, a hunger for connection that had been silent for too long. When I finished, Caleb reached out, his hand resting lightly on mine. "You're remarkable, Mrs. Harper," he said quietly. "You deserve to feel truly alive." His words, heartfelt and gentle, sent a tremor through me, a mix of hope and unease that sparked something deep within. Before I could respond, he leaned in and kissed me softly. The kiss began tentatively, then deepened with an intensity that stole my breath, overwhelming me with the sensation of being truly noticed and wanted. In that moment, I felt a rush of passion I hadn't known in years, a fierce, consuming energy that rekindled my sense of self. But as our connection intensified, the front door opened, and Liam's voice cut through the stillness. Panic gripped me as Caleb stepped back, his expression unreadable. The moment shattered. That evening passed in a blur, my mind clouded with guilt and exhilaration. I could barely meet Liam's eyes. In the days that followed, Caleb and I didn't speak of what happened, but the memory of that kiss lingered, a secret we carried in silence. That night, lying beside my husband Daniel, his steady breathing a stark contrast to the turmoil within me, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts circled back to the kiss, the warmth of Caleb's touch, the way his presence seemed to promise a return to dreams I'd set aside. It had been years since I'd felt such intensity. I was caught between fear of the consequences and a deep yearning for that rediscovered vitality. In that quiet home where routine once held sway, a fragile, risky journey had begun. With every fleeting glance and subtle interaction, I stood at the edge of a life that offered both potential heartbreak and a powerful sense of renewal. Though guilt shadowed my thoughts, a small, persistent part of me clung to the hope that I could reclaim a life rich with feeling, a life where even the quietest moments could ignite a flame of possibility. Thank you for joining me on this journey. It's a story of rediscovery, of finding strength in vulnerability, and of the courage to embrace the unexpected. If this story touched you, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear your reflections. Until next time, take care, and keep seeking the light that stirs your soul.